today's video, we're going to talk about how to increase lead quality with Google and Facebook campaign. I guarantee by the end of this video, you're going to have the lead quality issue that you have right now fixed, because these 7 things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, have everything to do with lead quality, increasing it or decreasing it if you don't do these things, okay? And it applies to Google and Facebook both. Actually increasing lead quality is that the cost of each lead typically goes up, okay? Now, that can certainly mean you'll make more profit. It all depends on the situation. I'm gonna go through some different scenarios if you stay to the end of the video about different markets where we've increased lead quality, that's increased profit, as well as decreased it at the same time for other markets. Therefore, how much more money this can make you or lose you if you don't actually apply it in the right situations. If you need lead quality to increase, you're gonna definitely be able to do it by the end of the video. So of the 7 things that increase lead quality on Google, on Facebook, there's some of these that will have more of an impact than others, obviously, but I'm gonna try to go through kind of the easy things to do first, and then give you some examples of where we introduced this before. And then of course, just go down the list and so you have what you need to be able to do this for yourself. So the first thing I wanna mention is narrow targeting. The easiest way to increase your lead quality right away is just to simply narrow your targeting. If you're advertising already, you've got a wealth of data that tells you what's working and what's not. Even if you don't have so-called conversion tracking in your account that tracks whether you have a lead or not, or sale or not, you can still look at, ultimately click-through data, time on site data being the big one. Even if I didn't have any conversion data in my ad accounts on Google, on Facebook, whatever you're doing, I would be looking at your web stats on Google Analytics or whatever program you have to track that. I'm assuming you at least have that, I should say. And the more time somebody spends on the site, the more qualified that user is. So I would try to figure out what keywords aren't driving a big time on site, or what audiences are not driving a big time on site, and try to get rid of those. For the most part though, when you're talking about search ads, it's really obvious. You look at your search terms report and you add negative keywords where you need to be, and that increases your lead quality right away, of course. On top of that, with Google ads specifically, or any ads that you run inside a Google Ads account, you can also see demographic data. What is the lead quality that you're getting for males versus females, old versus young, high income versus low income? This can also go further, and you could actually break things down on interest level, affinity level, such as whether a person likes to eat at fast food restaurants. If you go ahead and you pull audiences inside your campaigns, you can set up, even on a YouTube campaign, for instance, observances to see if somebody likes fast food, to what level of it impacts the conversion rate that you're getting to your site. If you have the conversion tracking set up and you add this observance to your account, it'll tell you, does somebody convert higher than average or lower than average if they like fast food? I won't get into the particulars on how to do that, but that's one of your other options to narrow your targeting, so to say, if you will, in your ad account. And of course, if you have good full tracking, you'll have the most options to do this. So maybe the situation is you just add your tracking now and you come back 90 days from now to do the vetting of the and narrowing of the targeting that you have. Maybe you set up Google Analytics so you can see time on site in addition, and you can actually do and make these adjustments. I can tell you firsthand, number one thing that separates the people that make money with ads and don't make money is the tracking. You've got to have tracking in order to make money with ads, because in almost every market, there's a portion of the market that buys and there's a portion of the market that doesn't buy. And if you can't eventually figure out who buys so you can narrow down your targeting enough to bring your lead quality up enough, you're just never going to make any money. And that's where the money actually is made, finding the 10 or 20% that makes money and singling it out. So you've got to have your tracking in place in order to do this. On Facebook, also just taking a minute to speak on that again, you can do the same kind of experiments there where you can just target people with a higher income. We do this all the time. Do that in one campaign versus another campaign and see how much that affects how much your lead quality is, given that you can tag your leads, if you will, and you can see the quality of the lead that comes through and tell the difference in the lead quality. And so you can ultimately figure out, is someone with high income typically a better lead? And if so, maybe you only run that. You can also do stuff similar to like what you can do with Google. If a person likes football and they also see your ad, you can see if that impacts whether or not the lead was quality or not, and then either single it out or don't single it out, because you can add it as an exclusion or a positive targeting option in your campaigns. There's a lot of different ways once you just actually track the leads all the way through to your website and then track whether the leads are qualified or not, and are they good quality leads, because you can actually then figure out what part of what you just didn't produce the qualified lead, if you will. And particularly because you can do something called offline conversion tracking, which I'm going to talk about later, pass the information about leads that are qualified back to your ad accounts on Google, on Facebook, see where they came from after, either segmenting your campaign so that people who like football are in one campaign and ones who are not in another campaign, or just via, if you're talking about Google, it'll ultimately tell you the stats for each income bracket and so forth, whereas on Facebook, they'll do age and placements. But you get the general idea. You've got to have the data in there, and you sub-segment your traffic again and again and again to eventually just weed out, okay, this doesn't work, let's weed out a little bit of this, and your lead quality is just naturally going to get better, presuming that you're tracking the leads, whether they're qualified or not, and then you're passing that back to the ad account so you can actually see in the ad account where the qualified leads are coming from and where they're not, so you can single out the places where it's not. 2, run different types of campaign. This is an easy one too. Ultimately, a lot of you guys are using PMAX campaigns when you're running Google ads, and that typically gets you a bunch of ads on display network, where there's a bunch of bots that are going to click through your ads, turn the, fill out the form on your website, and then give you a poor quality lead in that case. Or you're running display campaigns, which typically have a higher percentage of poor quality leads. It's not impossible to make money with those, just know it's more likely to get poor quality leads from there versus a Google search campaign. On Facebook, of course, compared to even Google, you're going to typically get a worse quality lead there for the most part. Why? At least when comparing it to Google search, there's more bots, 1. Number 2, a person who randomly stumbled upon an ad is going to convert at a different rate than somebody who searches on Google search and has intent to buy. For that matter, Google search campaigns are going to have the highest quality, lead quality, generally speaking, that you can find or get. Then it's going to be Bing search ads. Then I'm going to also, along with that, do shopping ads if you're talking about doing lead generation and you're selling products at the same time, high-end, high-ticket products. Then, the rest of it is going to have, you can generate lesser quality as a whole, but you can offset it by paying less for the lead. And that's a lot of, realistically speaking, where the answer is with all this. Yes, you can sub-segment your traffic out and get rid of certain parts, but certain parts of what you're doing has just simply a different value of the lead. So if I can get leads for $1 a piece and 80% of them are garbage, it's still fine. You just have to figure out what the value is for the lead and price it appropriately. So when you're running ads on Facebook, you can only pay $20 for a lead there. You can pay $100 on Google, and that gets you the most profit overall because you can scale at the highest rate possible on both platforms, bringing the leads in for what they're costing or what they're worth on each platform. And that's how you make the most money, ultimately. Going back to what I was saying before, when you're passing information about which leads are qualified back into your ad accounts, not only can you figure out what's not working, but you can see the exact value of a lead from each individual part of your account and then sub-segment your account again, and then figure out the value of a football liker versus one who doesn't like football. And then if the guy who doesn't like football, if the lead's half the quality, maybe we'll just bid half as much. Realistically speaking, that's our default position at our firm. We're just going to figure out what we can bid for a click and for an eyeball in this crowd versus this crowd, so we can still get a little leads from the crowd that isn't as good, but it's still at an ROI that's acceptable to our firm. So you can run different types of campaigns. You can do SMS verification. You typically don't want to do this unless it's a last resort. If you do everything you can to get rid of bot traffic, which will bring down your average lead quality, then you can add SMS verification. So if somebody wants to fill out a form on a Facebook lead ad or on your landing page by regular Facebook campaign or a Google campaign that you're running of some sort, have to get a code sent to their phone, return with the code to submit the form itself. My suggestion is to not do this unless you absolutely have to, specifically because it's going to slow people down filling out the form. A lot of people aren't going to simply want to do it. But if you did want to do it, you could do it, and it would certainly make the lead quality better because it would get rid of the bot traffic and also get rid of some of the people that aren't as motivated. So that's one of my least favorite ones. Skipping over number 4 here for a moment, CAPTCHAs are similar to that. I'm going to more so want to use a CAPTCHA than a SMS verification if I'm going to do a form on my website itself. Obviously, we don't have CAPTCHAs on Facebook lead ads, so you're going to use the SMS verification there. You can use CAPTCHAs. Specifically, there's ones that you can do through Cloudflare, also reCAPTCHA, that unlike the old CAPTCHAs that are still technically out there, you can still get them, where it would ask you, what's 3 plus 1? And then you put your answer there, and that would then weed out bot traffic, so your lead quality would go up. Now they have CAPTCHA systems where the user doesn't have to do anything at all, reCAPTCHA being one. You put it on your web page and it weeds out the people by looking at what it actually does is it checks the user's history on their web browser and sees if it looks like a human that way to weed out the people that are not human. Obviously, this system can block out legitimate users, but for the most part, that's not a real concern. Ultimately, and Cloudflare is another good solution where you could go where it's not slowing the user down because it's asking them to actively do something. If that wasn't enough, you could ask them, a challenge question like what's 3 plus 1 to get them to fill out the form. And then that would also increase your lead quality, a last resort, to get you the rest of the way of weeding out the bot traffic and so forth. You also have multi-step funnels that will increase lead quality. Instead of having one field on your form, adding 2, but also increase the average cost per lead that you have. Adding 3 fields will, again, further increase the lead cost, but also increase the quality of the lead. Adding 4, same thing. The more fields you add, the higher the lead cost as well, though, along with it. So the question is, how many fields should I add to get the lead quality that I want, but without adding so many that I'm going to start getting so few leads that my campaign's not profitable anymore? I tell our clients at our firm, by default, you want to have the minimum amount of fields on your form possible. If you don't need anything more than a name and an email and a phone number in order to sell to them, then that's what you're going to ask. Some sales staff, they only have so much resources and they're expensive to hire, right? Your sales staff were getting a little busy, then you would add more fields to get the lead quality to go up so that you don't need more sales staff to actually service all the leads, and you'll make more money that way, given that salespeople itself has a cost. So you're either going to spend more on ad spend or more on salespeople. There's a happy medium in there where the closing rate on your leads is pretty good and you have enough fields there as a result. But generally speaking, you almost always make more with fewer fields, not more fields, and then just paying your salespeople to work a little bit harder to work through the leads itself. Once you've got rid of the actual legitimate spam, that reCAPTCHA or Cloudflare can help you actually take care of, if you will. Now, that said, by the way, as a general disclaimer, we use multi-step forms all the time to also get more leads. Instead of just having a field there or a form there that says name, email, blah, 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 adding extra fields will it'll counter what I just said. It'll actually get you more leads and reduce your lead cost, not increase your lead cost. And what I mean by that is, so let's say you have a cleaning service and you want to get more out of your campaign where you're driving traffic to your landing page. Instead of just saying, contact us for a quote, and then here's a form to fill out, you say, how cheap would you like your cleaning service to be? And you can put $0 to $100, $100 to $200, like that. And that question isn't necessarily a question that our sales staff can use to increase the closing rate of the leads that much, or even use it that much to really weed out bad leads before having to contact them, which it will technically do that some. The main reason why we're asking that question is because it gets the user to just take a baby step moving forward. And they're typically more apt to take that baby step moving forward than putting their name and their email and stuff like that in there. Once we get them to answer that initial question, then we can ask them the name and email, knowing that because they're now one step into it and they're not going to feel like they want to have wasted their time, they'll go ahead at a higher rate to fill out the rest of the fields on that form. We use that all the time, and it's becoming basically our default way to run our landing pages because it always generates more leads than otherwise. So just wanted to throw that disclaimer in there that multi-step forms and funnels, typically as a result of adding too many fields, it'll decrease leads and increase the cost of the lead. It's not always the case, particularly if you throw a lowball question at the beginning that anybody can answer instantly. And it's kind of fun to answer, if you will. But you could also use the multi-step extra fields to weed out some poorer quality leads and increase the lead quality that you're getting coming through ultimately. It's just going to increase the cost per lead that you get, if you will. And respectively, if you will, if you're going to add extra fields, you're better off doing it in a multi-step funnel format than having one form with all the questions all there. Because when you throw all those questions at them all at once, it makes it more daunting to them and they don't want to have to fill it out. Whereas if you ask one question and then if something comes up where another question pops up and you ask the same 5 things, but one question at a time, you'll typically end up with 30 to 100% more conversion rate just because you did it in that specific way. So that's a really good bonus tip for you in this video. Now, the other 6th way you can increase lead quality is through using call drip. That's a software. You can look it up online. People will use, like I mentioned before, SMS verification. Get rid of the form spam, right? And it will do that. It'll just increase your lead cost a bunch, like double, triple what it was before, unfortunately. To kind of avoid all of this, you can just simply have your form with no filter on it, no SMS verification, no CAPTCHA, and you can have that form automatically turn into a phone call with call drip. So when somebody fills out your form and you got call drip installed on your form, it'll call up the salesperson and it'll say with a robotic voice, "Hey, John Smith just filled out the form on your landing page. Would you like to contact John Smith? If so, press 1. You hit 1 on your phone. And then it puts that salesperson in touch with the person who filled out the form instantly, which because you're responding quicker, you'll get in touch with at least twice as many people than you would letting the salesperson get the prospect on their own sweet ass time. We use it for that reason alone. But what it also does as a byproduct is it allows you to not have to have your lead costs go up because you're adding these extra steps in the process, SMS verification, CAPTCHA, to get rid of the poor quality leads. Because obviously, if the person who fills out the form, if you will, it will technically generate the same amount of poor quality leads one for one on the front end, if you will. But what it will do is obviously the spam leads, it will make sure that you know right away that it's a spam lead, because when the program tries to put you in touch with the user, there's not going to be any user on the other end. So instead of looking at the form lead and being like, okay, I'm going to, like, this more so applies like B2B, but I'm going to go investigate the company, who they are, what they are. I'm ready to call them now. This just gets everything, pushes everything forward to where you know if it's a real lead or not, if you will. Technically, it doesn't really get rid of increase the lead quality per se. My suggestion is that you ask for the phone number on the form and then you just immediately start calling them. And if they don't connect, you say it's not a good lead. And you don't think about a lead unless you know the number checks out right away itself. And then also considering that, basically a lot of people, you'll get in touch with more people calling a form lead than you will emailing them typically in most markets. And I would want to just right away find out if the phone number is real before I really spend too much time on them. So it's just another way to kind of think about things. You also got upgraded tracking. This is what I was talking about before, AKA offline conversion tracking. You take the lead tracking that you got now and you enhance it so that not only are you tracking whether a lead comes in by phone, by form, but you add in qualified lead tracking. So was it a qualified lead or not that you actually want? Okay, and then if so, what was the score on the leads? Can you score it between 1 and 10? Or maybe you can score it based upon some other factors like how much budget they had, whatever. You take this and you feed that data back into your ad accounts on Google and Facebook, and then that makes the algorithm have more data that you can then switch your bidding strategies to optimize for qualified leads versus just leads in general, or in this case, or revenue, or, you know, value, or the lead score. So to clarify, you know, you can just step backwards here. Typically what we'll do on an account is we'll optimize for form submissions and phone calls right away, while we're building up data in our ad account about qualified leads, which leads were qualified. Eventually we get 30 to 100 qualified lead conversions in our account. Then we'll switch our campaigns to not look at that goal anymore. We'll set up new ones with Facebook, and we'll optimize for qualified leads on a separate new campaign. Or on Google, we'll just switch the goals to optimize for qualified leads that we're tracking with the separate goal versus the goal that we were starting out with, which tracked phone calls and or form fills by itself, right? And then we'll also, while we're optimizing for qualified leads, we'll start building up data about whether leads got another step closer to a purchase or just to a purchase. And then we'll eventually switch our campaigns to optimize for that. And that'll make the algorithm optimize our ads even better for us. It'll look at the thousands of traits that a person who buys versus doesn't buy and narrow down our targeting for us. Or we can use it on our end, like I was mentioning at the very start of this video, sub-segment all our traffic over and over again to figure out where the good quality leads are coming from and where they're not. But if you feed in the data, and these algorithms are so smart now, you don't even have to do any optimization yourself. If you just feed in the right data about which leads are qualified, ones that are scored highly versus scored less in terms of what you say that lead is actually worth to you, the system will just keep weeding out the poor quality leads and therefore increase your lead quality all on its own for you. So you cannot, in other words, complain about the lead quality you got until you've got the full amount of data possible to the ad account, because the ad account is designed to do this for you. But if you don't give it the data, how can it do it for you? That's really on you at that point in time if you won't do it. The problem is it's not simple to set up. I mean, with Facebook lead forms, you can integrate your CRM systems with it. Anybody can track the lead quality and then score the lead and all that and pass it back to the ad account. But you have to set up the systems to do this, and you got to have an ongoing stream of data going back to the account. And even if you don't want to do this through an automated means, you can just simply upload a spreadsheet to the platforms and do it that way. To be honest, that's what we do, because I want to be ultra accurate about it. I want to verify every lead was quality, and I want to manually verify that lead got inside the system. That's us, and that gets the highest quality possible. But you can do this in an automated way as well, which it'll all happen automatically when somebody scores a lead on your CRM system. That was a good lead. I scored it a 9 out of 10. You want the ad platforms to have it. And then it just, once somebody scores it a 9, bang, it all sends it, all that data gets sent to the ad platforms. And then right away, the ad platform utilizes it to steer the ads in an ever a little bit better direction, because it has now that little bit extra data. And then effectively, each qualified lead that the system gets as a signal makes each future ad that you're running a little bit more efficient than it was before. Like I said, though, okay, you need to do the math whether or not it makes sense to short term for you to do these things, cut the number of leads you're going to get. In other words, increase your lead cost to also increase the quality of your leads. Typically, you're going to almost always make more money with more leads, but with lesser quality, and just having a good system on the back end so your sales team doesn't have to spend too much time on it, than trying to do all these fancy things and have every lead be a laydown sale, but you only get a tiny amount of those laydown sales. I can just tell you from experience. If you wanted the specifics on these things, I've talked about all these things on this video. You can search for it on my video, on my channel homepage in the search bar. But the key thing here is, in order to become a true master running ads for your business on Google, on Facebook, you've got to understand the little nuances to all this stuff, because there's a lot of stuff, little gotchas, that if you didn't check this box or uncheck this box, your campaign won't work. It's hard to give you a checklist. On Facebook, all these things work. On Google, just do these things. That's what people want, but that's not how millions are made running ads for your business. If it were that easy, everybody in your market already been doing it. But anybody can make millions of dollars, literally speaking, for their business, for themselves, if they just find out what it actually takes to make the ads work. But you got to study it. And I have the best information you're going to find on YouTube here, given to you to learn from, because I spend 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm to tell you exactly what works and what doesn't work. And we're we're a firm that has to guarantee our clients results just to get paid. So you're getting information from somebody who's really got to be on it to make things work. So if you're going to study anything, you should subscribe to this channel. And if you haven't subscribed already, you should. I have even better information on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. I document my strategies that I use to work there. You should check that out as well. If you like the channel, you're going to like the blog as well. If you have any questions about anything I've covered here, or any marketing related question for that matter, I love hearing questions. I like answering them. Leave me a question below in the comment section. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment, typically within 24 hours time. You also can, of course, reach out to me through my Discord group. You can find the link to that in the video description, as well as through my site. You can go to my site at guaranteedppc.com, call me. We'll set up a private conversation. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about there as well. But, as a side, the reason why I'm able to bring you this data that I'm bringing you here is because, we have dozens of clients that we're doing the strategy for. We manage their ads for them. If you want to be a part of the crew of different clients that we have, where we're getting them spectacular results and can guarantee your results as well, reach out to me through my site and I'll get you a quote on how much results we can not only just bring you, but guarantee you, because we promise our clients a certain minimum lift in the results, sales or leads up front, like on the same ad spend or on a certain minimum ad spend that we start out with before we take a fee at all. No other agency out there does this. This should tell you something about the quality of the information I'm sharing with you on this particular video and what I'm talking about here. And I can get you an 8-quarter projection of your results with guarantee if you reach out to my agency, and I do not charge for that at all. And you want to work with the best agency you can find, reach out to me and I'll get you at least a quote that tells you just how much we could get for you if it were done completely right all the way through using the techniques I talk about on this channel. I also got ad templates available. If you are in a market that we've worked in before, and we've worked in hundreds of niche markets at this point in time, because we've been in business over a decade, I can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your market. You copy paste those into your ad account and get the same results we did in your market without all the money and time and hassle it took to figure out how to get results in your market. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I can tell you the results we got in your market in another city or country that you're in, and how you can use this for yourself. So even, for your e-commerce guys, if we're in, Ireland and you're in the US, why not just use the thing that works in Ireland or the US? I mean, it's pretty much turnkey, and it'd be silly to build it all out for yourself when we've already got the template that works for you. So if you're interested in that, also let me know through my site at guaranteedppc.com. To go full circle on this, okay? I know it may sound like a broken record, but increasing the lead quality will typically increase the lead cost. You need to figure out, is it worth it to cut down the number of leads in order to get a higher quality lead? I've got people, like for instance, there was a client that we had in the bid bond space who did construction bonds. Basically if you're a construction company, you got to have a bond to certify that you can pay, like if somebody hires you, that you're going to be able to follow through on the job. The client wanted to have where instead of just having the person call, do the whole sales pitch with the person, we would take the person through the entire application process right up front. And that application was not simple, right? There's 20 or 30 questions on there. I tried telling them in advance, like, hey, the more, just like what I'm telling you here on this video, the more questions you ask on a form, just for somebody to initially start doing business with you or take a step forward with your company from an ad campaign on Google or on Facebook, you're going to have less leads, okay? And typically the amount that you gain by not having your salespeople have to, work with less leads is not going to make up for the reduction in leads that you're going to get. And, he had some moral thing around it where people don't want to be jerked around. They don't want to have to call the apply. They just want to apply. If the thing that was the most ethical in marketing worked the best, that's the way everything would go. It's not the way. Marketing is psychology and manipulation. I'm sorry, that's just the way that it is. You have to understand how humans work psychologically wise and how they actually work, not what you think is nice and sounds like, but how people actually behave. People actually, when they're initially proposed, and when a person's thinking that they have to call somebody to ask questions and you present them with a 20 question sequence, they're not going to do what you think they're going to do. Anyway, the long story short here, yes, I was surprised still, how many actual people would just go through the application process when that was the only option to deal with them. People, as they did say, I mean, we'll give them credit that a lot of people would actually go through and just, they appreciated that the application was right there and they didn't have to talk to a salesperson and all that. But we still only got about a third of the amount of leads as we had before. And of the people that called, almost everybody was able to apply. We're talking like 80% of people would apply still. So we're basically cut our campaigns off at the knees. We're getting slightly less than half of the ROI out of the ad campaign because we didn't want to deal with people who just wanted to apply technically. This is what I'm referring to here when I say you do not want to do these things unless it's as a last resort. If you're making money, don't start cutting stuff. Now, at the same time, you can often make money increasing lead quality if you've got your stuff set up too liberally. On the other hand, you can actually set things up with a search campaign. If you're running broad match keywords, you can make money and start making cuts. Okay, that's on the flip side. I never use broad match keywords because it does run so inefficient. And even though I'm going to cut down on some sales I'm going to get by running the broad match keywords, it's not enough to outweigh all the waste that we have at the same time, if you will. And this would be the case 98% of markets. Okay, a lot of people don't understand this, if you will. Generally speaking, you need to mathematically calculate what is a cost per qualified lead that you can afford to pay after all your expenses in your company, trips of labor expense, cost of delivery of your products, cost of goods, and figure out what's the maximum amount you could pay. And you need to track how many qualified leads you're getting in your ad accounts so that you can actually see how to optimize for the maximum amount of qualified leads you can get from your accounts without going over that minimum threshold there. That's the only real way you'll know whether broad match works or broad match, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And so forth there. To give you a final case study here, we had somebody that is in the funeral insurance business. They had display campaigns that they were running on Google Display Network itself, also a little bit of YouTube ads, driving traffic to a landing page. And ultimately with this, if you will, the opposite is true. We actually make more money using these methods, and not just by filtering, keywords or whatnot, or audiences I'm talking about here. We made more money adding some of these filtering steps than we would otherwise. And here is why. They were getting so much spam itself that we had to actually add the SMS verification to the form itself. The captcha in and itself didn't do it. Why? Because not only did we had display spam, but the competitor was going after them, sending through dummy submissions, because it's a big money market. And in a market where there's a lot of money at play, there's a lot of dirty players as well. So adding the SMS verification there, though, made it so that the dirty player there had to have had a script that could also do SMS verification. Now, that's not impossible, but it makes it a hell of a lot harder to just form spam your competitors when they have to have an actual SMS verification as a part of the process. That in and itself cut down, obviously, the conversions on paper, 98% ultimately. But it put them in position, the few leads that they would get, even though the good people coming through were going to get blocked, of which they're getting blocked, 70% of those the good ones are getting blocked. What it did do is it trained the algorithm to get the right people now. Because now they're not, instead of optimizing for all these bots and fraud and everything else, they're optimizing for real bona fide leads. So in that situation, it was what made us more money, a lot more money at that case, even though we had to sacrifice 2/3 of our leads because people don't want to do a damn SMS verification to opt in for a funeral insurance in-home consultation, but that's what we had to do. Sometimes these are necessary evil, and that's the other kind of part of this that you have to consider, whether you're going to do this, whether you're not going to do this, in that if you are just optimizing for junk and non-junk, the algorithm's going to get confused. You're just going to keep spinning your tires because the system can't actually optimize for what you need, because it's what you need is mixed in with everything else that you don't need. Now, we could have easily fixed this also by scoring the leads on the back end, if you will, but we didn't, for the main reason that their sales process wasn't optimized. We couldn't actually physically do that. That would have been the best option, if you will. and it took people a long time to respond to the leads. So we didn't really know 100% for sure which leads are qualified and which are not. So the SMS did a great job of figuring out which ones are real and which ones are not, and doing it quickly itself. Now, if they would have responded to the lead within 60 seconds each time, and then did the offline conversion tracking process, that would have actually been a better method, because we would have had a high accuracy rate of figuring out which leads are real and which ones are not, versus them calling the next day. 2/3 of people who fill out a form don't typically even answer the phone after the first 24 hours. And therefore, it would have muddied up the data, a lot anyway, if you will. So, but with that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Hopefully that makes sense in terms of how to increase lead quality and how to do it for yourself as well. Take it easy. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.